Teletubbies is centred around a sense of the sheer joy of being 2 and 3 years old. That's all it is.
So just what does a 2 or 3-year-old see when they watch Teletubbies? I'm Tina Wagner with Ragdoll, and I'm here with Faith Rogo, our educational consultant. We're going to answer those questions for you.
And we're going to take you through an episode as we go, pointing out how it is that things are designed so that they have educational value. One of the things you'll hear in the opening narration is a rhyme.
Over the hills and far away, Teletubbies come to play.
That's Teletubbies' version of Once Upon a Time. It's a way of inviting kids into the story. You'll hear it written as a rhyme because rhymes help build a foundation for literacy because they introduce rhythm and they help kids make distinctions between letter sounds. So the fact that we didn't say once upon a time, that it was introduced in a rhyme, that makes a difference. That's part of a design of a good educational program.
1, 2, 3.
Let's pause real quick. Do you know who's going to come up next? Bet your toddler does. And that actually means a lot. If your child can say, Lala is coming up next, it means they understand that Teletubbies come in a set, that set has 4 in it, that there's 1 missing from that 4, and they know which one. That's a lot for a 2-year-old or an 18-month-old.
4.
Yep, it's Lala. And in addition, if they understand where on screen Lala is going to appear, then they're seeing certain patterns. They may recognize the pattern of size going from largest to smallest, which is also left to right, the way we learn how to read. And in the meantime, not only now have we provided an opportunity for prediction and for pattern recognition, we've also counted to 4.
Teletubbies!
And we're just at the opening title, and we're not through the opening segment yet. And we've already had a whole lot of learning opportunities that are represented in Teletubbies.
Time for Teletubbies.
Now I notice here also there's just a lot of music in Teletubbies. Tell me about the use of music in the series.
Music, one, sets a mood. This is upbeat, it's fun, right? It provides an opportunity for movement. You see the Teletubbies moving there. And music gets to the brain in a way that other kinds of things like language don't. It activates an affective part of their brain, that is the social emotional part of the brain, not just cognitive. So if you can combine cognitive content with affective content, you have deeper learning. So music is important, and you'll hear it throughout the show.
It's funny, a lot of parents ask me about, what this is here. This is what looks to us like a pinwheel, but the production team, we call it the Windmill. And can you tell us about the significance that has?
This is actually one of the most significant features of the show. You may have noticed the big hug just before this came up. Both of those are used as transitions. Well, if you say transitions, what does that mean? Why isn't it just editing in a video program? Well, think about children and what transitions are like for them. Most kids have a hard time with transitions, especially if it means ending something they like, going on to something else that they may not know what's coming next, right? So same thing happens on video. You want to warn kids of transitions in the same way that you do in real life. Right. This is an audio and visual cue warning of a transition. Something new is about to happen. And Big Hug, which preceded this, is also kind of the beginning of a cue because Big Hug ends every single segment in Teletubbies. That signals to the viewer at home, something new is coming up next.
They are technological babies, so that's why you see them act like little children sometimes, very silly. And
yeah, they're kind of the viewer's peer. They're a playmate, as opposed to being a role model.
This is another one. What is this? I know the production team calls it a voice trumpet, but really, what's the purpose of this?
One of the important things that this feature does is allow an adult voice and an adult presence in this children's land of Teletubby land, right? This place where it's children's rule because this is playtime. This is, open-ended, free play, encouraging imagination, that kind of thing, where essentially visiting with Teletubbies for a little while is like a play date.
There are no adults in Teletubby Land, so this represents an adult voice too.
You still want to have an adult presence there. That's what the voice trumpet ends up being. But I want to point out something else about the way that this comes into the show. If you listened very carefully, you heard that it had a special sound with it. Let's go back and listen again so you hear the sound first, and then you see the voice trumpet come up.
Okay.
The sound always happens first, and then the object comes on
Before
screen.
you see it, right.
Right. So let's listen again and watch. Starting there.
Right.
And several seconds worth before the voice trumpet comes up. And the reason is that provides a prediction opportunity. If you recognize the sound, you can predict what's going to happen next.
And a lot of people asking me about the baby and the sun, it's just not quite sure what that means and why we have that in the production.
Babies love to look at other babies. So when a baby's face comes up on the screen, they look at the screen and they're transfixed trying to figure out that other person there on the screen. Teletubbies is layered so that you have something that's appropriate for children at various developmental stages. I mean, an 18-month-old is pretty different than a 3-year-old. For the youngest viewers who may need some guidance in kind of how to follow the action here, the baby is their stand-in. Here's another technique that's just this moving inward on screen is another way of inviting kids into the viewing experience. That's very careful design. This doesn't happen by accident, but when we're just watching, we tend not to notice. Every time we begin a segment, you'll see that the Teletubbies introduce themselves, that hello, right, that they just did. This is Lala and Dipsy, and that's on purpose too. It's in a way modeling kind of social
Oh, I hear the sound. I hear
behavior.
the sound. I think the voice trumpet's going to come up. Sorry.
You're right.
Now I know. I'm sorry.
There
so
you go.
So they're
That prediction opportunity.
Right.
So in every segment, you're going to hear the hello.
Yeah.
Going up,
Going down,
going up,
going down,
going up.
going down.
This is a world where people delight in discovery, and nothing is more fun than discovering something new.
Going up,
Going down.
There are several different versions of up and down that you'll hear in this segment or see demonstrated in this segment.
They're using their hands, right?
Yep, there you go. Hands up, hands down, right? Voice inflection, the voice trumpet, up and down. But it's not just teaching. I mean, the voice trumpet isn't a teacher standing in front of the stage. This is a game. And in fact, every segment of Teletubbies is a game.
Yeah, games are great, but what are they really learning from them?
Well, in this case, they're learning a lot. And in most of the games, I mean, they'll learn different things from different games in the show. But the fact that it's a game makes it like a play date. What they're learning here, though, is listening skills. In order to play the game, they have to listen to what the voice trumpet says. They are learning about following directions, right? They don't go down when the trumpet tells them to go up.
Right.
They go up when it says up and down when it says down.
So they've made learning fun.
Yeah.
It's a game,
And they're
right?
also learning language skills.
All right.
They repeat. See? Down.
And they're so happy about it.
Right. What it says. Well, this is a sense of accomplishment. I've now mastered a new concept.
Right.
And I get that there are several different versions of this concept because they're not only following directions, they're choosing which version of up and down to do. Right? Sometimes they run up the hill and sometimes they run down. Sometimes they put their hands up, sometimes it's down.
Right.
Now, of course, because this is for very young children, they don't do this just once. Kids don't master things by doing them just once. They do them over and over and over again.
Yeah, if any of us have been around children, you know how many times a book is, read it again, Mom, read it again, Dad. I mean, they love to hear that favorite story or do their favorite activity again and again.
And that repetition is important. It gives kids an opportunity for prediction. It gives them an opportunity to master additional information, right? It gives them a chance to test their own theories. Okay, I think this is what they're doing. I'm not sure. I'll watch again, make sure, check my ideas. So you're going to see lots of repetition in Teletubbies.
And we know from, we have a children's response team that the children really do react to these segments, and the repetition as adults sometimes makes us crazy, but the children just love it. They love to watch it again and again, and everything that Ann Wood has done is we always start from children, and a lot of when we're out showing the children these types of clips, they get up and they're actually doing the activities with them. So it's wonderful to see how the children do react to Teletubbies. Whereas adults, we just are like, it's a little repetitious and a little more difficult to watch. But children love this stuff.
Grown-ups also approach the screen often in ways that kids don't. Remember that for kids, this is a play date. They think it's not so unusual to be active. So you may actually see kids sitting up and getting back down, or putting their hands up and back down. As adults, we think of television as, entertainment. Okay, we're just going to sit and watch.
We're sedentary, right?
You can do a lot as an adult with this if you encourage kids to play along. You can kind of tell they're having a good time here. This is a game, right?
I love his dances.
But the game has to end. Watch what happens when the game ends. They're disappointed.
Yes.
How do they deal with disappointment in Teletubbies?
Big hug! Big hug!
Big hugs are also used to celebrate accomplishment. No matter what its purpose in the show, Big Hug provides a daily reminder that in Teletubbyland, everyone loves one another very much. Standard features like Big Hug and the Windmill are important. When the structure of a program is completely predictable, viewers are free to concentrate their attention on new information. The Windmill signals a different game. It also signals the transition to a video. Every episode contains a video segment. It provides a connection between the characters and real kids. Now, what we're seeing here is the transition to the video segment. That's why their tummies are lighting up and their antennas are lighting up. Something else while we are looking at all four of the Teletubbies on screen together is that you can notice there's a lot of diversity here. I mean, not only are they different colors and different sizes, and each one has their own unique antenna so they can receive the video signal.
Right.
They also have different skin tones in their faces. All of that is very purposeful.
Well, the Teletubbies are technological babies, but they're also costume characters. And Tinky Winky, for instance, in costume is almost 9 foot tall.
So this also becomes a guessing game.
Yeah.
Whose screen is actually going to have the real video on it? They each have that opportunity.
Right.
And of course it changes up in every episode. And watch how the kids mirror what the Teletubbies do in terms of greeting the viewer, introducing themselves. They'll say goodbye. Lots of polite British heritage in this. Every program's going to have a video segment that features real kids, usually in a way that's going to reinforce concepts that were earlier in the show. Now, you'll learn a lot about kids from these segments. I mean, they're not just doing up and down and incorporating that into their play. That's important. But you can tell when kids have mastered things because they turn it into humor. Watch what this boy does.
Defiant little boy. I'm not going to go down.
Yeah,
That's his
he's
own
playing
game.
that little game there. So we adults can learn a lot just by looking at kids. And of course, kids are learning things too, and they're learning more than just up and down.
The neat thing I'm seeing is that we just did up and down with the Teletubbies, so now we're in the real world and really emphasizing, again, that concept of up and down.
And different versions of it.
Right.
That, you have the kids standing up and squatting down.
Right.
Now you have them running to the top of the dunes and back down.
Going up.
But by showing real kids, you also have things like different strategies for getting up the hill. So kids are learning other things from watching real kids too.
Going down.
There's a voiceover of children on this, too.
Yeah, in fact, I know that there has been some concern expressed about language in Teletubbies. That somehow because the Teletubbies themselves don't speak in full sentences, that might be a problem. And the truth is, there are 3 different kinds of language in Teletubbies,
Going down.
and in every single show. There's the Teletubbies language. That's modeled on emergent speech of babies.
Going down.
Because Teletubbies are peers more than their role models.
Right.
Then we have this kind of voiceover. It's a child's voiceover, but it's a young child's voiceover. So this is not a teenager voicing this over, right?
Going up. Going down.
And then the third kind is what we hear in the voice trumpet and the narrator. It's adult voice, grammatically correct.
So there's actually more grammatically correct English that you're hearing than the baby talk that sometimes.
Yeah, if you timed it
people-
out per
yeah.
minute, there would definitely be more grammatically correct language than what the Teletubbies say.
I think sometimes people see the Teletubbies as the main characters, and because they have the baby talk, that's what they notice the most. But in actuality, correct English is often reinforced in many different ways.
Going down.
And we see other things modeled here.
Right? Helping each other.
Yeah, the cooperation, the persistence, the working together across ethnic and gender lines. So children are learning more than just up and down from these segments.
Oh, again.
Yeah, that was fun. I
Yeah.
want more. So what do?
Is it necessary to have this much repetition?
It is. Think about how much the world is new to a very young child. So in fact, this seems like a very simple video segment to us. But in fact, there's a lot going on here.
So you watch it again and you might pick up something different that you didn't see the first time.
Right. An adult eye, we can process a lot of this. We may be familiar with the terrain. We've seen kids before, things like that. For a very young child, so much more of this is brand new. Being able to watch again and again enables kids to take in more information and also to begin to play those prediction games again. So additional learning opportunities come from repetition. Actually, the whole program is designed to have all 3 core learning areas for kids represented in every show. And those areas are cognitive, which is thinking skills, social emotional or affective skills, and kinesthetic. So the cognitive stuff, that's the stuff like counting and the pattern recognition and opportunities to predict and problem solve, things like that. The social emotional are the connecting skills, the cooperation we see modeled, the big hug, learning to get along with others, those kinds of things. And then there's the kinesthetic, and kinesthetic has 2 parts to it. One is just moving your body, getting to know what your body can do, those kinds of things. But also actually learning cognitive concepts, but through motion, so that you learn about up and down by running up and down a hill. Right? That's kinesthetic learning. So all of those kinds of learning are layered in every single episode. that makes it kind of triply strong, right?
it
In
really
the same
does.
way that a footstool that had 3 legs is going to be stronger than just 1 or 2.
Right.
So it scaffolds kids' learning in a very strong and effective way if you put the entire program together.
Well, I know Ragdoll also is very interested in the physical activity of children, especially at a young age. These days today with obesity and everything, we're trying to get kids up and moving. And again, through our children's response tapes, we see that Teletubbies is a show that gets kids up and moving along with the Teletubbies or these children. A lot of times when the children are viewing, they're interacting with the show as well.
Yeah.
And I get parents that say, "Why is my kid up and moving?" I think most people put their kids in front of a television expecting them to just watch sedentarily, and Teletubbies is something where kids can really interact with it.
Yeah, actually, some parents kind of get worried at first because they want their kids to be quiet in front of the set. They're putting them in front of their tube, calm them down or whatever. Teletubbies is not that program. Don't have that expectation for it.
Right.
The more normal expectation would be that kids would be up and moving to this.
Right.
And in fact, although we don't see it in this episode, in some episodes, we have Teletubbies dance segments where
Right.
they actually do simple dances where kids can kind of copy the moves. Not exactly, it's not, a dance instruction tape, but it's another opportunity to move. Teletubbies is filled with learning opportunities. You can enhance the learning with segments like these by watching actively with your child. Ask for predictions, point to things on the screen and name them, or join in the action by standing up and sitting down. The more different ways you can reinforce concepts from the show, the stronger the learning.
And the bunnies.
Right, so you have this nice gentle shot. The pacing of this is gentle enough and slow enough. It should feel slow to you, because if it doesn't feel slow to you, it's probably not developmentally appropriate for a 2-year-old. And now we're on to a new game,
Right.
because every segment of Teletubbies is a game. And we always start by saying hello.
Yes, we did.
One day in Teletubby Land, Tinky Winky was looking for Po.
So even looking for a friend can be a game.
Po! 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 Po!
And you were talking about motion before. Look at how much Tinky Winky moves in this segment.
Okay.
This could be a still with Tinky Winky just calling out and looking around for Po. No. Tinky Winky is going to roam
actively,
all over
yeah.
Teletubby Land looking for Po in this segment.
Po! Po! Where Po?
Oh, there she is.
Tinky Winky can hear Po.
Where Po?
And Po, and you can also see Po's on her favorite thing, the scooter. In this episode, we see her scooter, but all the Teletubbies have a favorite thing, and we'll just take a quick look at them. Tinky Winky, of course, has his lovely red bag, and Dipsy with his black and white oversized hat. It's always a lot of fun. And Lala has a great bouncy orange ball that makes all kinds of fun noises. So that's just great to point out that just like a child has maybe a favorite blanket or toy, that each of the Teletubbies have a favorite thing.
Where Po? Po!
So here the viewers kind of are cued in. They have knowledge that Tinky Winky doesn't. That makes them kind of special.
Po! Where Po?
And notice how Tinky Winky is coming to the viewer. not
Right, it's
the
like
camera,
asking us.
the
where-
viewer.
Right.
And directly
Yeah.
involving us in the game by asking us, well, where's Po?
And we've seen in the children's response tapes that the children are actually screaming out, Po's over there. So they're very active in it already.
Questions engage the brain and prompt thinking in ways that declarative statements don't.
Here we have Tinky Winky coming to the Tubbytronic Superdome, which is basically their home.
That's interesting. This whole set is actually designed to introduce a learning concept of itself, which is spatial relations. The rolling hills allow, and you'll see with all the movement that there is, introducing concepts like near and far, over, under, right? In back of, in front of, and in this case, inside, where
Right, going
Tinky
into
Winky
the
is going
home.
now, and outside. That's done on purpose.
Right.
So throughout this game, it's not just the finding Poe problem-solving kind of thing, but also introducing these concepts of spatial relationships.
There's really so much more to this. It just seems so simple when you watch it, but
Right.
you know, when you look at it this way, it's amazing how much more there is to the show.
So if you were 3 and somebody asked you where was Poe, the first response would be to point at the screen and say, well, there.
Right.
But it's more than that. You could begin to guide children to saying, well, they're behind you.
Okay.
That means they understand a spatial concept.
And also, I'll just mention that the Nunu, it lives inside this area. Nunu never goes outside, and he's the conscientious vacuum cleaner friend that they have, always tidying up after them.
Now, one of the other things that you'll see in this segment that allows for opportunities for prediction is that Poe is going to pop up in the same place multiple times in a row. So that as you begin to get the game, the youngest of viewers can then see and be able to predict, oh,
Right.
I know where Poe's going to come up next. So that was the first time Poe comes over the hill. Now, where do you think Poe's going to come up next? Where's Poe? Well, I now know Poe's
Same
hiding
place.
behind the hill. So Poe's going to come up from behind the hill. And that will happen several times so that the viewer participating in the game can predict. And then they'll change. Poe will come up from someplace different.
It's like the baby son's in on it, too.
Yep.
She's screaming, over there, over there. There she is.
So what this becomes is basically a slapstick routine.
Right.
Almost a classic slapstick routine. And that's great because young children love visual humor. They don't have the language skills to appreciate humor like parody yet or,
Exactly.
those kinds of things. Riddles that are on word plays. They don't get that yet. They love visual humor. The challenge is slapstick very often models behavior we don't want kids to do. Sometimes even violent behavior. So here, there's great slapstick humor without showing anything dangerous.
And humor's so important when you're trying to teach something to children. They're enjoying themselves, and
It is. It makes the learning fun. And also, humor, if your kids are laughing at things like this, is a demonstration of mastery. Because in order to laugh at something silly, you have to understand what the norm is supposed to be. If you don't understand the way the world is supposed to be, then it's not funny. It's just something else
it's like
that's happening
understanding
in the world.
You understand the joke, so you laugh.
Yeah.
I never thought about it that way. I love the way Tinky Winky has the patience through all this. Some kids would have gotten angry, but I think he's having fun too.
Again, remember how much a 2 or 3-year-old is processing here.
Right.
It doesn't feel nearly as long to them as it does to us. This is a game. They want it to continue.
Look at creeps up on him. That's great. She's a little prankster, I think.
Now they're going to find each other, and a segment's about to end. How does it end?
Big
Teletubbies
hug.
love
Big
each
hug, of
other
course.
Very much.
Now, the game continues even as the program closes. The Teletubbies want to keep playing, but...
Oh, bye-bye.
How do you think a 2-year-old would react?
Just like this. No.
So they say, no, I don't think so. One of the things we know about children when they're working through things like transitions that actually creates some stress for them. I mean, not stress the way an adult would use
Right.
stress, but is that children turn stress into a game.
Right.
So, what do? I mean, you're trying to get them out of the house really quick, and they don't have their shoes on, and so you ask a kid to go find their shoes. But they don't want to transition to leave the house, so they make a game out of it. Oh, I don't know where my shoe is, and they start playing that game. Well, this is essentially what they're doing here. They've turned this transition of I don't really want this into a game. And you'll see, now they're saying goodbye for a second time,
Right.
Bye-bye, Tinky Winky.
where each one of them is said goodbye to individually.
Bye-bye, Lala.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Poe.
Bye-bye.
But the game's not over yet. I mean,
Okay.
they've turned this now into a game of kind of
Okay.
peekaboo,
Teletubbies, say
where
goodbye.
they know
Yeah.
that the game has to end.
And actually, people ask me about this hole in the dome there. There's a slide. They're actually sliding
Yeah.
down. Right, they
pop
keep
back up.
coming up,
There's
yeah.
the peekaboo,
Right.
classic representation of the game of
Right.
peekaboo. So this continues as a game until the
Right.
very, very end of the show.
When the sun sets.
Bye-bye.
Right, we opened with sunrise, a
Right.
natural beginning. Kids recognize it, even very young children. And now
kinda-
we're going to close the
right.
show with the sunset. And giggling until the very end.
Right. That's the way it should be.